Democrats are absolutely losing their minds over Donald Trump arresting 2 judges yesterday. Well, you know, it's kind of funny. I haven't heard too much about the judge in New Mexico who was arrested for harboring a Trinidad Agua gang member, because that's just bad optics for the Democrats. They know that does not look good. You have a judge in New Mexico allowing a gang member, Trinidad Agua gang member, to live at his home. And he was arrested. So, you know, they don't really want to talk about that because there's a lot of stuff in that case that makes one really question what was going on there. The gang member himself, they got into his phone and he had pictures of decapitated bodies in his phone that he was sending to other people. This is an individual that the judge was letting use his firearms. And of course, everyone knows he was living at his house. So they don't talk about that one. That one off limits because it is bad optics. However, the one that they are really trying to twist is this Judge Hannah Dugan in Wisconsin. And after she was arrested, and publicly so, Democrats and pundits, leftist pundits came out in unison. How do you say? I always say that word wrong, but they came out all at once, and all of their language, once again, happens all the time, was pretty similar. I can't believe Donald Trump is arresting a sitting judge. Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are arresting sitting judges now. Can you believe it? One of them said, Trump has crossed the Rubicon. I wish I would have bookmarked all of the tweets that I saw yesterday because it overtook my feed. I did a search, Trump sitting judge, to find some of these. Chuck Schumer says, there are no kings in America. Trump and Pam Bondi can't just decide to arrest sitting judges at will and threaten judges into submission. Notice Chuck Schumer does not mention what the sitting judge here did to deserve her arrest. And I'm going to get into that here in a second. I actually have the unsealed charges and what exactly went down that day that caused her to deserve to be arrested. Tammy Baldwin, she is senator in Wisconsin. She's the one that beat, or supposedly beat, Eric Hufty in the seat, or for the seat. She released a whole statement on it. And it's absolutely incredible what she has to say. This is what I mean. Is these Democrats, they don't care about the country. They don't care about the rule of law. All the Democrats care about is the quickest way between where they're at now and power. They will lie. They will manipulate. They will burn down the country if they have to in order to get in power again. This is what Tammy Baldwin said. And when you read the language that these people use, carefully crafted, probably by a PR firm or a lawyer, for maximum effectiveness, maximum gaslighting, sounds professional, sounds so good. These people have no morals, no ethics. Like I said, they just want the quickest way between now and power. This is what she said. In the United States, we have a system of checks and balances and separations of power for damn good reasons. The president's administration arresting a sitting judge is a gravely serious and drastic move, and it threatens to breach those very separations of power. So let's see if she mentions what the judge did. Make no mistake, we do not have kings in this country. Notice that that's what Chuck Schumer said. And we are a democracy governed by laws that everyone must abide by. By relentlessly attacking the judicial system, flouting court orders, and arresting a sitting judge, this president is putting those basic democratic values that Wisconsinites hold dear on the line. While details of this exact case remain minimal, this action fits into the deeply concerning pattern of this president's lawless behavior and undermining courts and Congress's checks on his power. Notice she doesn't mention a thing about what the judge actually did. Doesn't say anything. This is Tony Evers. He released a whole PDF document on doa.wisconsin.gov advising what state employees should do if they encounter ICE agents. And no, it doesn't say anywhere in this document to comply with the ICE agents, to assist with the ICE agents. This is federal agency. Instead, it says, call your office of legal counsel and speak directly with an attorney. Do not do any of the following. Do not answer questions. Do not give agent access to any paper files. Do not give your consent for the agent to enter into a non-public area, blah, 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 blah. There's all of these steps, how to make the process or the job of the ICE agent even harder. Remember, Donald Trump was elected for very specific reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because the United States, the Americans, citizens, United States citizens, were seeing the issue at the border and how many millions of illegal aliens were taking over the country. And they had enough of it. It was so bad, Trump got elected to deport these people. And now you have people in power publicly flouting the law, publicly telling the people under them, publicly telling their constituents to go against these agents, to do everything in their power to make their job harder. And then the greatest part, the funniest part, is when they actually do something illegal, all of these senators, these governors, these politicians band together and they call Donald Trump a dictator. So let's take a look here at what exactly this judge did. This is from the document itself. This is it starts on page 3 here. This affidavit is intended to show merely that there is probable cause for the requested criminal complaint and does not set forth my complete knowledge regarding this matter. I am aware from a review of public records that on March 18, 2025, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, this is the illegal immigrant that was being pursued by the ICE agents, was charged in Milwaukee County Circuit Court case number, and then it gives a number, with 3 counts of battery, domestic abuse, infliction of physical pain or injury. Agents from the United States Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Removal Operations identified Flores as an individual who was not lawfully in the United States. A review of Flores' alien registration file indicated that Flores is a native and citizen of Mexico and had been issued a notice and order of expedited removal by the United States Border Patrol agents on January 16th, 2013, and that Flores was thereafter removed to Mexico through the Nogales, Arizona port of entry. There is no evidence in the A file or DHS indices indicating that Flores sought or obtained permission to return to the United States. Milwaukee ICE determined through biometric fingerprints that the fingerprints of the individual charged in the Milwaukee case number match those in the file. Then if we scroll down here, it says, I am aware that law enforcement routinely executes warrants and makes arrests in the public areas of buildings such as the Milwaukee County Courthouse. The reasons for this include not only the fact that law enforcement knows the location at which the wanted individual should be located, but also the fact that the wanted individual would have entered through a security checkpoint and thus unarmed, minimizing the risk of injury to law enforcement, the public, and the wanted individual. As such, the members of the Milwaukee ICE developed a plan to arrest Flores in a public area outside the courtroom following his scheduled criminal court appearance before Judge Dugan. So it's kind of setting this up. It's kind of saying, listen, number one, this guy is illegal. Here's why. Here's some history on this guy. His fingerprints matched. He was going to be called before Judge Dugan for his case of domestic abuse and assault or whatever. And we specifically wanted to arrest this guy in the courthouse because it's safer for everybody, because he's already went through the security scanners that reduces risk of harm to all parties involved. It goes on, I am aware that 2 prior arrests in public areas of the Milwaukee County Courthouse complex of individuals who were not lawfully present in the United States had received public attention. Both incidents involved individuals who had been charged with criminal offenses, but who were not in custody and appearing for scheduled hearings in their criminal cases. I also am aware that pursuant to its policies, which had been made known to the courthouse officials that Milwaukee ICE was focusing its resources on apprehending charged defendants making appearances in criminal cases and not arresting victims, witnesses, or individuals appearing for matters in family or civil court. So now let's get down to the ICE agents going into the courthouse because they say that this is just an abuse of power. He's arresting a sitting judge. Why would he do this in public? And there's actually a very good reason why. And I'm going to explain that after I read kind of the context of what happened here. Well, I'll have Scott Jennings explain it because he does a fantastic job explaining why this is very important to do in a public area. Not just the fact that it's safer for everyone involved, but also there's a specific reason why Donald Trump or the FBI or ICE would want to do this in a public area, or if something were to happen with the judge helping the illegal alien escape, there's a specific reason why they'd want to arrest her publicly and do a perp walk. There's a reason for that. But let's go on. 6 members of the Milwaukee ICE task force plan to take part in the arrest of Flores. This included ICE deportation officer, and it goes through them. At approximately 8 a.m. on April 18th, deportation officer A and this other officer arrived at the Milwaukee County Courthouse, presented identification to a security guard, and explained that they were present to make an arrest. The officer and the CBP officer were asked to show not only their credentials, but also their badges. The security guard stated that she needed to speak with a supervisor. A shift sergeant with Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office was contacted and spoke to deportation officer A. They discussed the details of the planned arrest, including in which courthouse Flores was set to appear. The sergeant asked that any arrest wait until after the completion of the scheduled hearing before Judge Dugan, as this was standard practice. The officers agreed, and they were allowed to proceed unescorted to the public hallway outside of courtroom 615. So they were asked to wait for the hearing to be over. And they said, okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll give you that courtesy. The other members of the arrest team were already present in the 6th floor public hallway when deportation officer A and the other officer arrived. Before these officers arrived outside of courtroom 615, FBI agents A and B had advised the courtroom deputy for courtroom 615 that law enforcement was there to arrest Flores. The FBI agent displayed his credentials to the courtroom deputy and informed him that they were there to assist ICE in arresting Flores. They agreed that the arrest would take place after Flores's courtroom appearance. The agents then left the courtroom and took positions at different locations in the public hallway. Agents would have interviewed the courtroom deputy present in courtroom 615 on April 18th, who corroborated the above information. The courtroom deputy had opened the doors to the courtroom at approximately 8:15 a.m. and reported that individuals began checking in for the list of matters scheduled for that morning. The courtroom deputy had received a list of individuals appearing that day, and the courtroom deputy checked in defendants while attorneys checked in with the clerk. The courtroom deputy explained that at approximately 8:15 a.m., FBI agents advised that they were working with ICE and were planning to arrest Flores. The courtroom deputy asked the agents to wait outside and arrest Flores after the hearing. The agents agreed and left the courtroom. The courtroom deputy told case agents that after an ICE arrest in the courthouse earlier that month, a shift sergeant had asked bailiffs to alert a supervisor at the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office if ICE agents were in the building. Accordingly, the courtroom deputy notified a shift sergeant. So all these different people are being notified that these ICE agents are here to arrest Flores. And the ICE agents are actually, they're being very gracious. They're trying to comply with all of their process and like, hey, can you wait until after the hearing is done? Can you wait over here? They're being very gracious during this whole period. And they have to, one person after another is being notified in this courtroom of what's going on. But listen to this. Arrest team members reported that while waiting outside of the courtroom, a woman approached and took photos of arrest team members. DA Agent B, who was inconspicuously seated away from the group, was not photographed. So now you have this random woman coming up and taking photos of these agents. The individual taking photographs of the agents has been identified by multiple witnesses as an attorney employed by the State of Wisconsin Public Defender's Office. Team members observed Flores arrive on the 6th floor of the courthouse at approximately 8:43 a.m. He was greeted by his attorney, and the two entered courtroom 615 together. And now we come to the part, where Judge Dugan learns that ICE is there to arrest this individual that's in our courtroom. Judge Dugan learns of ICE's presence and confronts members of the arrest team. Witnesses have described Judge Dugan's response to learning of ICE's presence. For example, the courtroom deputy indicated that when Flores arrived, Judge Dugan already was on the bench and conducting proceedings unrelated to Flores. The courtroom deputy observed Attorney A, the individual who had photographed the agents, enter and approach Judge Dugan's clerk. So this individual that photographed the agents approached the clerk of Judge Dugan. Attorney A stated that there appeared to be ICE agents in the hallway and told the clerk where the agents were seated and what they were wearing. The courtroom deputy reported that the clerk then got up and talked with Judge Dugan. Judge Dugan, so this courtroom deputy right here, this guy, he seems like a pretty legit guy, because he's just reporting what he saw, or her. I don't know if it's a her. But the courtroom deputy says Judge Dugan became visibly angry, commented that the situation was absurd, left the bench, and entered chambers. At the time, Flores, so the illegal alien, was seated in the gallery of the courtroom. Another individual, Attorney B, was working as an assistant district attorney in Judge Dugan's courtroom. There were approximately 8 criminal cases, including Flores's case, scheduled for pretrial hearings that morning. Attorney B was aware that the victims from Flores's criminal case were in the court. While Attorney B was busy preparing for that morning's docket, Attorney B heard someone announce, quote, "ICE is here." Shortly thereafter, Attorney B heard Judge Dugan say that she was going to call the chief judge before leaving the courtroom. Members of the arrest team reported the following events after Judge Dugan learned of their presence and left the bench. Judge Dugan and Judge A, who were both wearing judicial robes, approached members of the arrest team in the public hallway. So now we have contact. Judge Dugan and this other judge approached the arrest team here. Judge A's courtroom is located adjacent to Judge Dugan's courtroom. Witnesses uniformly reported that Judge Dugan was visibly upset and had a confrontational, angry demeanor. Judge Dugan addressed Deportation Officer A and asked if he was present for a court appearance. When Deportation Officer A responded no, Judge Dugan stated that Deportation Officer A would need to leave the courthouse. So now she's trying to get them out of the courthouse. Hey, do you have a court appearance? No. Well, then you have to leave, basically. However, not so fast. The officer stated that Deportation Officer A was there to effectuate an arrest. So the Judge Dugan, asked if he had a judicial warrant. And the officer responded, no, I have an administrative warrant. So that trumps it. Judge Dugan stated that Deportation Officer A needed a judicial warrant. And the officer told Judge Dugan that he was in a public space and had a valid immigration warrant. Judge Dugan is having none of it, though. She asked to see the warrant, and the officer offered to show it to her. Judge Dugan then demanded that the officer speak with the chief judge. So this whole time, this is buying time. So that she's almost like stalling these individuals while the illegal alien is getting away, being led out the back. I don't want to spoil anything here, but I just want to put it in context here. So she's out here holding up these officers, asking to see this information, that information, saying they have to leave, and you have to speak to the judge. All the while, there's some other stuff going on while she's talking to them. Judge Dugan then had a similar interaction with the FBI agent and this other officer after finding out that they were not present for a court appearance and that they were with ICE. Judge Dugan ordered them to report to the chief judge's office. Judge A then escorted members of the arrest team away from the courtroom, down the hall, and through a set of double doors toward the reception area for the chief judge's office. DEA agent B, who was not recognized by Judge Dugan and Judge A as being part of the arrest team, remained behind outside of courtroom 615. So this is where the whole situation was taking place. This is where the illegal alien was that they were supposed to arrest. And they didn't know that he was over there. They didn't know he was part of the team. So he's just sitting there in the background observing all of this stuff that's going on. Okay. The courtroom deputy reported observing a portion of the above described events in the hallway. According to the courtroom deputy, shortly after Judge Dugan was advised of ICE's presence, the courtroom deputy left the courtroom to look for an unrelated defendant. The courtroom deputy saw Judge Dugan in a robe in the public hallway, telling one of the federal agents that he needed to go talk to the chief judge. Judge Dugan appeared visibly angry and was walking away quickly. As soon as the agent entered the chief judge's vestibule area, the courtroom deputy saw Judge Dugan walk south down the hallway and enter a locked door near courtroom 615. And the individual telling this says, I am familiar with the floor plan for the 6th floor of the courthouse and believe the door Judge Dugan entered led to a non-public hallway from which she could access her courtroom chambers. DEA agent B, who had remained in the hallway and had not been recognized as a member of the arrest team, reported that Judge Dugan walked around the hallway and appeared to be looking for additional agents before she returned to her courtroom. Once inside the office of the chief judge, deportation officer A showed Judge A his credentials and the warrant. The judge asked the chief judge's clerk to make a copy of the warrant and asked whether the chief judge was available. The clerk advised that the chief judge was not in the building, but later advised that he was on the phone. At that point, Judge A left, and the deportation officer went inside a more private area of the chief judge's office to speak with him on the phone. During the conversation, the judge stated he was working on policy, which would dictate locations, blah, 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 blah. So let's skip over this part here. That's just kind of unrelated. While deportation officer A was speaking to the chief judge, the DEA agents and CBP officer and FBI agents waited in the vestibule area outside the chief judge's office. DEA agents departed the area after a short while. Judge Dugan's courtroom deputy then approached the remaining arrest team and stated that the courtroom deputy was not the one who had notified Judge Dugan about their arrest plans. The courtroom deputy also made a comment about Judge Dugan pushing Flores's case through. So they were in the middle of this case, and all of a sudden, Judge Dugan is trying to wrap it up, right? Which the arrest team interpreted to mean Judge Dugan was attempting to expedite Flores's hearing. Judge Dugan escorts Flores through a jury door to avoid his arrest. So this is where it comes down to. She was aiding and abetting a illegal alien, preventing ICE or being an obstacle between this alien and ICE federal agents from arresting this guy. I mean, you saw the charges against him. Yeah, I mean, this is not really an upstanding citizen, to say the least. Well, let's continue. Multiple witnesses have described their observations after Judge Dugan returned to her courtroom after directing members of the arrest team to the chief judge's office. For example, the courtroom deputy recalled that upon the courtroom's deputy's return to the courtroom, defense counsel for Flores was talking to the clerk, and Flores was seated in the jury box rather than in the gallery, which is kind of odd. Why would this defendant be seated in the jury box? That's not for, everyone to sit in. That's not where defendants sit in. The public can't sit in the jury box. What's going on here? The courtroom deputy believed that counsel and the clerk were having an off-the-record conversation to pick the next court date. Defense counsel and Flores then walked toward each other and toward the public courtroom exit. The courtroom deputy then saw Judge Dugan get up and heard Judge Dugan say something like, "Wait, come with me." Despite having been advised of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores, Judge Dugan then escorted Flores and his counsel out of the courtroom through the jury door, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse. These events were also unusual for two reasons. First, the courtroom deputy had previously heard Judge Dugan direct people not to sit in the jury box because it was exclusively for the jury's use. So that's why it's called a jury box, because it's for the jury. It's not for illegal alien defendants who were there for public assaults or domestic abuse cases. That's not who is supposed to sit in these jury boxes, okay? Second, according to the courtroom deputy, only deputies, juries, court staff, and in-custody defendants being escorted by deputies use the back jury door. Defense attorneys and defendants who were not in custody never used the jury door. Attorney B similarly explained that after returning to the courthouse, or the courtroom, rather, Judge Dugan forcibly removed for Flores' attorney and a mail she did not, or let me reread this here. Judge Dugan forcibly motioned for Flores' attorney and a male she did not know to approach Flores' attorney, appeared to be confused by the judge's gesture, but complied with her directive. Judge Dugan commanded the attorney and the male to leave through a back door of the courtroom. Attorney B then saw Judge Dugan escort Flores' attorney and the male through a non-public door near the courtroom's jury box. Shortly thereafter, Judge Dugan came back to the courtroom and conducted hearings on that morning's docket. Later that morning, Attorney B realized that Flores' case had never been called and asked the court about it. And Attorney B learned that Flores' case had been adjourned. This happened without Attorney B's knowledge or participation, even though Attorney B was present in court to handle Flores' case, and even though victims were present in the courtroom. So the victim of this guy, the victim of the domestic abuse, was present in the courtroom. These ICE agents, and it sounds like an FBI agent and a DEA agent, I guess, or over in this vestibule area, in this area outside courtroom 615. They're waiting for this hearing to wrap up. All these people are coming out and talking to these people, notifying other people. Attorneys come out, an attorney comes out, take pictures of them. They're telling them, you have to talk to this person, you have to talk to the chief judge. And this judge, Judge Dugan, expedites his hearing and shuffles this illegal alien and his attorney out this non-public area so that Flores can evade arrest. That's what happened. And this is a sitting judge, Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, this is a sitting judge, okay? So they want to act like, oh, this is so crazy because Trump is arresting a sitting judge. I agree, it is a crazy situation because this is a sitting judge. A sitting judge flagrantly helping a criminal evade arrest. That is what should be crazy to you. And now, what's even more insane is now they're complaining that her arrest was so public because there's some people out there. They're like, well, yeah, what she did was wrong, but why make her arrest so public? And that's what really burns me the most. Like, listen, you have a sitting judge who's in a position of power. She's a judge. I mean, what she says and does, I mean, has could have insane consequences on a person's life because of what she says, what she does. She holds the power sometimes of life and death in her little gavel. And she's here ushering an illegal immigrant outside the back to evade ICE. That sounds like someone who is extremely radical, who should not be in that position, who should not be a judge, who does not have concept of right and wrong, who is a dangerous person. That person should be made an example of. And that is exactly this the point that Scott Jennings makes right here on CNN. Take a listen to this. I found this absolutely fantastic.
You have the right to get an arrest warrant and you have the right to get a summons. And that they got an arrest warrant for a judge shows that they wanted to make this a spectacle. Last point I want to make is I presented to a grand jury and indicted a state prosecutor. I indicted a prosecutor, and I got a summons because I didn't want to make a spectacle. They made a spectacle of this case.
Well, they announced it on X as well, and then deleted it, but announced it on X.
Why wouldn't you want to make a spectacle of it? I mean, the fact of the matter is, there are liberal Democrat elected officials, not all judges, some are mayors and others, all over this country who have said repeatedly since Donald Trump became the president that they would like to obstruct his principles and his program when it comes to deporting illegal immigrants. Here you have this person. If these facts are proven true, obviously that's exactly what she was trying to do here. Why wouldn't you want
to
make... Let
me respond to that.
Why? Because...
You asked me a question, let me respond.
Well, let me tell you my view. The spectacle is important because a message has to be sent to everybody else. We're not going to put up, you've been elected by people to uphold the law, and some of the laws that have been most flagrantly violated in this country are immigration laws. You've got to get on board with upholding all the laws, not just the ones.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I'm going to let this guy respond. I was going to play this part, but I'll let this guy respond. Let's see what he has to say.
Patel, head of the FBI.
You said you had to.
It's an embarrassment.
Let me just respond to something.
Yeah,
you said,
go ahead.
Which is that you said, well, you got to worry about the impact on the community.
Yes.
The president and the Justice Department and his people have to worry about the impact of illegal immigration on the country because.
So he really didn't say much else other than Kash Patel is a embarrassment to the FBI, which, like, okay, I mean, I guess you can have your opinion. But Scott Jennings says it just perfectly here. That's what I think as well. Like, you have this individual who's supposed to enforce the law, uphold the law, and she is flagrantly violating the law with a not just a common criminal, but someone who's not even a citizen of the United States. She's helping him evade his arrest. It's insane. And these are the people that Democrats are standing up for. Democrats essentially are lawless. If they're standing up for someone like this, helping an illegal evade arrest, they are lawless. And it's very interesting because you have a judge in New Mexico letting Trinidad Agua stay at his home. You have this judge helping a domestic abuser and illegal alien evade arrest. Then you have senators and representatives flying to El Salvador, meeting with MS-13, well, specifically an MS-13 gang member, Albrego Garcia, begging for his release. What next? Is there any low that these Democrats will not stoop to? Because this is about as low as it gets. But this video is going a little bit longer than I had hoped. I did want to get into a detailed explanation right out of the horse's mouth, what went down. I didn't get into how the ICE agents eventually ended up catching the guy. I just wanted to explain exactly what went down in the courthouse that day in Milwaukee and the reasons why and the links Judge Dugan went to help this illegal immigrant evade arrest. And it's mind-blowing that Democrats and, these governors, senators, representatives are sticking up for her. But let me know what you think about this down below in the comments. Like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. But until then, I will see you on the next one.